Hello and welcome to Davel's Kitchen. Today I'm making ravioli in the only way I know how. Lazily. Okay, so what you're going to need to make this is number one, a couple eggs, maybe two, maybe three. I don't know, we'll figure it out as we go along. Screw it, why not? The other thing you're going to need is some flour. I measured out about a cup of flour. It could be slightly less, it could be slightly more. You're probably going to need more than you think, but we'll start off with a cup and see where we go from there. You're also going to need some olive oil because olive oil, of course, is good for olives and you get oil out of them. I think. Whatever. So we're going to dump some of this in there. Just probably a measurement. I don't care. And then we're also going to go ahead and do some kosher salt because, there's nothing like salt that makes you say, oi. So, oi. Oh, and then last thing you're going to need, depending on what you want to fill your ravioli with, you need some cheese. I'm going to use ricotta because, it kind of just tastes like ricotta. Alright, so there's a lot of ways you can do this. The easiest, best, most lazy way to do it is, of course, to use your bowl with your stand mixer and, one of these cool pasta presser dealies. If you don't have one of these, you can use a rolling pin or your hands, but it's going to be really hard and you're probably going to, hurt real bad because it's real hard to do. But, hey, you do what you want. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and add in the flour. Boom, flour in the bowl, just like it's supposed to be. Next thing we're going to do is add in our beater attachment because, first you got to beat it. That's always number one, especially for Michael Jackson. So take your egg, and a lot of people want to crack it on the bowl because they think that makes sense because it's got like a narrow edge, and you would think so, but it's better to crack it on the flat edge of this thing because number one, you'll get less shells, and number two, cracks easier. So do that. And then jam that in your garbage disposal if you don't have a garbage can. Or maybe if you do have a garbage can, you like garbage disposals better. I do. Anyway, smack another egg on there, dump that in there, and move on. Okay, so once you got your eggs and your flour in there, go ahead and take some olive oil. And you could do about half a tablespoon, or just go ahead and do some amount that you think is close to half a tablespoon. It doesn't really matter all that much. You'll probably use some more later on. But for right now, this is fine. And then the last thing you're going to do, add in, is some salt. So throw some salt in there, to whatever you feel like it tastes good, or maybe it won't taste good. Doesn't really matter. You'll figure it out. You go ahead, lock your mixer in place, or, start using your hands to mix that real good. But I start off with about a 2 on my mixer and my beater attachment here, and just kind of let it get everything sort of wet and mixed a little while. Alright, once you start to see your machine jumping a little bit, you can kind of feel it, it'll jump a little as it goes. That's when it's getting to be about time to go ahead and add your dough hook. So you'll go ahead and just kind of stop it, unlock it, and then, pop it, lock it, drop it. Just like that. Or maybe pop it, unlock it, drop it. Whatever. Dad joke. I can't get my dough hook on. There it goes. Wow, that was weird. Okay, anyway, dough hook, and then go ahead and do again like a 2. Alright, so once you got your dough hook on there and it's going along and kicking around, you're pretty much just kind of waiting for it to get to be the right consistency. If you notice that it's just sticking to everything like mine is, probably add a little bit of flour to make it loosen up a little bit. The key to making pasta dough is to add a lot of flour. You want it to be really dry. You don't want a wet dough, because if it's a wet dough, it's going to stick to everything, and that's not really a good time. Well, yeah, it could be. I don't know. Anyway, the point is this. Add more flour if it's sticky. Okay, so I added more flour, and you kind of see what this is doing, where it's sort of like, scooting along and, not really sticking to anything. That means it's about right. So what you want to do from here is go ahead and stop it, unlock it, and then you just kind of let it come off the dough hook, and I can tell it's not very sticky. It's still a little bit sticky, but what we'll do is take this bowl off. Ooh. And our dough hook off, because we don't need that anymore. Alright, I got it off. Moving on. So I got my bowl full of dough here. It's a little bit loose. There's a few parts that aren't really mixed in right, but we're going to solve that when we use the press over there. So if you've never done one of these before, it's not that complicated. You lock this in a down position. Take that until it's loose. I said loose. Yeah, there we go. Take your pasta press widget attachment thing. Put it in there, screw that back down, and we're making some progress here. Alright, so you don't usually want to roll this or run this at greater than like 2. And before you put anything in there, definitely just turn it on and make sure nothing falls out. Because sometimes you get some old pasta stuff in there that would fall out. I was about 2 seconds for putting my fingers in there. Don't do that. Don't ever put your fingers in there. That's a bad time. You will lose a finger that way. Okay, great. So, what I'm going to do is take my ball of dough here out of my bowl. And usually, you know, this is easier because I'm standing in front of the bowl. But, you know, right now I'm not because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. But you're basically going to take your bowl of dough and you're going to kind of mash it together and you're going to knead it a little bit. There's only so much you're going to do with the dough hook. And you're going to be able to feel this is sticky still. And I can feel this is still a little bit sticky. So what I'll do is dump the rest of my extra flour in here, which was about 1/4 cup of flour extra that I had left over. And I'm just going to coat all sides of it and then just kind of knead it together a bit. And this will make it not sticky. Or less sticky. It'll probably be more sticky after I put it through the press and I'll have to add more flour. But for right now, it's fine. And what you want to do is kind of make it into a tube. Sort of make it into like an oblong shape, not so much a, you know, a square or rectangle, more of like an oblong thing before you put it in there. Because what you want to do is make it go in there but not have it expand out to the sides right away. Because if it does that, that's when it's going to start to tear and do weird stuff. So don't let it do that. And one more time, I'm going to coat it with flour, press it all together again. And this is where you can kind of use the machine to do your, you know, difficult kneading work. So I'm going to put this through, kind of, like I said, pinch it out so it's more oblong. It's still a little bit sticky, but it should be okay. Put it through there, and then it just kind of roll itself out. If you get some tearing, don't worry, that's normal. It's normal the first couple times it goes through, you get some holes in there, that's fine. What that means when you have stuff like that is it means it's too sticky, that means it's sticking to the roller. So what you want to do is add more flour. Because like I said, you want this to be dry. And just put the flour on there, kind of press it in a bit, and then let it go through again. Let the press do the work. Alright, and see a few more little tears there, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead, duck it, or just kind of coat it in the flour once again. And once it's got a nice coat on it, just pop it right through again. And so each time we get a little less tearing, it's a little bit better. I'm actually thinking this is getting close to being where I want it as far as the stickiness. Now for like noodles, you want it to be real dry. Because when you go to cut that later, if it's sticky at all, your noodles are going to turn out poorly. So you want to give it some time to, you know, you want it to be like not sticky at all. You want it to be good and dry. You can also let this rest for a little while, and that'll also kind of help it not be sticky. It'll give it a little bit of time to dry out and relax. But I'm going to roll it out a few times, knead it up, and then we'll give it some time to rest. We're going to work it first, then we'll let it rest. Put that work in. Don't ever give up. Thanks, DJ Khaled. You taught me so much about brushing my teeth. Alright, I about got it at the right consistency now. It's not too wet, not too dry. And kind of what I'm doing is once you got the right consistency, do it, you know, run it through, fold it in half, kind of fold your top down like that over it so it's kind of evenish, and then run it through. And that'll help to give you more consistent, you know, slab of dough, I guess would be the word. I'm not sure. But you don't want to have it be more than about double the thickness as you're rolling this through. But just kind of, like I said, fold in half, pinch that top over so you have like a sort of a squared off edge to it. And then, you know, dump it back through there in some way. Alright. And then I know I just said don't like do more than like double, but you can double it up depending on how big your dough ball is. And kind of do something like this, flatten it out, make it sort of longer so that it's not so thick, and then roll it through this way, and then you'll start getting a nice sheet. There we go. That's a good size sheet. Alright, so we got that sheet. And now we're going to put this sheet in this sheet here. So we're going to increase the number to 2. So we went from the 1 to the 2. And we're just going to, you know, roll it through a couple times. Really just one time to, you know, thin it out. I'm actually going to roll it through one more time just to make sure it's the right thickness. Alright, I got some stuff on here I don't like. I'm going to pull that off. Okay, and now I'm going to move it down to a 3 and roll that through one last time. 3 is about as small, like thin as you want to get for most things. Like you can go down to a 4 or 5 depending on what you're doing, but you really don't usually need to go thinner than like a 3. Alright, so now I've got my dough sheet rolled out here. You want to be careful not to get this too you know, pressed together with the opposite side. I've got a few little air pockets here that I'm gonna see if I can roll out. Yeah. Alright, so there you go, there's some dough. Now, at this point, you can turn your dough or your stand mixer off, and it's time to move on to the next phase, which is going to be cutting out, you know, the shapes you want of the dough or of the sheet, and then putting it into, you know, or on a pan or something. I don't know. Let's figure it out. Alright, so I got a plain old sheet pan here. I'm going to take my my dough, and I'm going to kind of just drop it on there, and I'm going to grab a knife and I'm going to kind of square this up. So I'm just going to do a cut so we have a nice even or a nice flat edge, and do the same thing on this other side. Goal is to just have a nice clean edge to make this, you know, do whatever you want. This is also a good way to make lasagna noodles, although I would probably do those as like a 2 instead of a 3. Again, same thing, do that, roll it out, cut, boom. You know, don't do this on a pan you care about, because, well, a non-stick one anyway, because you'll definitely scratch the finish if you're using a knife like I am. So I'm just going to kind of leave enough room to be able to continue what I'm doing. And this excess dough you could do a lot of things with. So it's a good idea to let the dough rest at this point. Just like leave it alone and come back and, you know, play with it later. But I said I'm doing this as lazy as possible. I didn't say I was going to, like, you know, take my time and do this smart. What do you think this is? Okay, so I got my, I'm going to cut my raviolis now. Now, if you have something like a round cookie cutter, you could use that. I don't. So I'm going to use a glass because, you know, screw it. So I'm basically going to put the glass on here, and I'm going to try to press down and see if I can cut through the dough that way. And the answer is yes. Yes, I can sort of cut through the dough that way. It's all technique. You want to put that on there, and you want to not just turn, you want to push down real hard. Don't break your glass. Be real careful not to break your glass. But you know, push down with a good amount of force on there. Turn it a bit, and then kind of shimmy all around. Do like a circular motion, and then you should be able to get it off there for the most part. If all else fails, you just put the glass there as a guide and then use a knife to cut. But you basically want to make little circle hockey pucks like that, and that's pretty much all you gotta do. I'm gonna do that a lot of times. Okay, so I've got this done. I've got a lot of extra dough left over, as you can see, so I'm not gonna make this go to waste, because that would be stupid. I'm gonna take this and roll it back through the press until I get a couple more sheets, and then kind of do the same thing over until I end up with just a bunch of these that I can make into raviolis. So we'll just skip through time until you see what it looks like. Alright, so I got one freshly beaten egg here, along with all of my you know, ravioli pieces. Basically, you want an even number, so I've got 18, so that means I'm going to be able to make 9 raviolis here. There is another way that you could do this that involves taking your sheets, laying them down, and then just putting them on top of each other, but then you get square raviolis. I don't want square raviolis, I want round raviolis, because that's what I like. They come out of a bag that way. And that's how you do things when you're really lazy. You make them like squares. Wait, I did that backwards. Whatever, I'm not going to fix it. Okay, so I took my lightly beaten egg, and I'm going to add in some seasonings to lightly beaten egg. Number one seasoning here is a little bit of salt, because you can't do anything without a little bit of salt. So it doesn't really matter what kind of salt you use, just add a little bit of salt. It doesn't matter how much you use, just don't use too much. That's kind of the key. Don't use too much. Don't use too little, but definitely don't use too much. You can't take it out. And next, you can use like some kind of, you know, Italian seasoning, or if you want to use like basil, thyme, oregano, and like marjoram or something. I mean, that's basically what Italian seasoning is, just a couple things. But yeah, this is basil, oregano, thyme, marjoram, and some other junk. But I'm not going to add a whole lot, just a bit. Just kind of a little shake of it. Mix that in pretty well. And then I'm going to grab my ricotta cheese and a spoon. Alright, so take the ricotta cheese, dump a bunch of that in there. There it is. I dumped it in there. I'm going to dump a little bit more in there. Why not? And now we're going to really mix it together. We're going to kind of fold it together. You don't want to go crazy with this because it'll come out of the bowl and make a giant mess, and you got to clean up eggs and junk. Don't do that. All right, you can take a look at that. If you think it looks a little too sparse, add a few more, you know, dashes of seasoning in there and mix it up again. You could also add some pepper in there if you wanted to. Now, aside from that, I know I didn't mention this earlier. Don't get crazy, or don't get mad at me, whatever. I'm actually going to add in some mozzarella. Why? Because I felt like it, you know? You can use as many cheeses as you want. You can use mozzarella, Parmesan, ricotta, whatever. Just use whatever cheeses you want to put in there. I'm doing a little bit of mozzarella, not like a specific amount or anything, just, you know, whatever seems like a good amount to me. Mixing it all together. Alright, so we're going to take a spoon here. Now we're going to start dolloping. Now, you can use, you know, you could use like a bag and pipe this into each ravioli if you want. I'm not a fan of that method. The main thing here is don't overfill. If you overfill, you're going to have a bad time. It's going to come all out the sides and junk, and it's going to be bad. But you'll get an idea. Now, what you can do is do one, and then kind of like check and see how good it is. Now, a way to do this that makes things a little bit easier is get your finger wet. Get your finger a little bit wet when you do this, and then go ahead and press around the edges of one of your raviolis to, you know, wet it up a little bit. And what that'll do is actually make it easier for the other side to adhere to it. So I'll put my other side on there. And see, this one used a little too much. It's okay, it just comes out and you just wipe it off. But, you know, it's in a pan, so who cares? But once you get that on there, you take a fork and you press it in. Where'd my fork go? I lost my fork. Dang it. I got a new fork. So I'm going to take my fork and I'm going to make, you know, some presses here all around the outside. Press, press, press. Pressing things with a fork. You just want to press your dough together and make sure it's in good shape. And then you can kind of like peel it off. And there we go, ravioli, made it, done. Doesn't look that pretty. Alright, so I got my raviolis here. They're all, you know, made up. At this point, if you wanted to, you could just, you know, refrigerate these, cover them, keep in a bag or something for like 2 days maybe at most, probably be the best option with that. I'm gonna actually go ahead and cook them now. So I'm gonna get a pot of water and some salt in the water and boil it up, and we'll start doing these. Turns out these only cook for like, you know, 3-4 minutes at most, so should be good. Okay, I got my water almost to a rapid boil. It's just about to boil. I'm gonna take a second to go ahead and unstick these from the bottom of the pan. If I had been smarter, I would have, you know, maybe like put some flour or something on there to make it not stick, but whatever. But yeah, there they are. I'm gonna take them off the pan. So I've gone ahead and got my raviolis off the pan. Be careful when you're taking them off there, because they will kind of stick if you don't put any flour on there to begin with, which I didn't because I'm dumb. And let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to drop them in one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so these shouldn't take very long to cook at all. If you put them in when the water's boiling like I kind of did, they should only take about 4 minutes at most. If you cook them too long, they'll get kind of tough. So just kind of, you know, sit here and watch them and give them a stir every now and then. Once they start, you know, all floating along with the water, that's how you know they're about done. But just give them a few minutes and then shouldn't take very long. So they appear to be done. I'm just going to throw them in a bowl, a bunch of them. You can add sauce to these. You can really do whatever the heck you want with them. I'm going to probably just have them plain for now, because, you know, just want to see how they are by themselves. But, you know, add whatever you like. Do them however you want. So I'll go ahead and give it a try. See how it tastes. It's actually pretty good. It's actually a pretty good ravioli. Probably one of the better ones I've had. It's got a good salt flavor to it. It's got the cheeses in there. It's nice and creamy. I mean, you can kind of see there's it's smoking, but you know, you got the cheese in there. It looks pretty good. It's a good ravioli. Now, here's the thing that I really want y'all to understand, and I want you to take very seriously. And that's the fact that I spent about half an hour making these things, and I could have just gone and bought a bag for like $3 and not had to do any of this. So every time you watch the shows, they're like cooking, talking about ravioli is so easy to make, all this homemade pasta is easy to do. No, it's not. Just buy a damn bag of ravioli. Alright, hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you, you know, maybe use this in your lifetime. Maybe you enjoyed the twist ending, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, these are pretty good. But it did take me like half an hour to make these. And a lot of dishes. But I'm going to have to clean those up. But if you could, if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share it somewhere on the internet, because that helps me out. And until the next time, you know, do me a favor and try not to die.